Welcome back. We're day 12 of the 100 horror films in 31 days. Got in four films, sporting my Astros hat on honor of Tempest, who requested it. First up, let's talk about movies instead, but we do have the Red Sox and the Astros tonight. Uh, Mummy's Tomb, 1942. This time, Lon Chaney Jr. was donning the bandages. And I think this movie has the best makeup of the three Cheney films. Uh, as far as towards the end of the series, which I'm going to talk about later, he gets really irritated wearing the makeup and how long it takes, and I think they use a mask for Ghost or Curse, whichever one. But anyway, I think he looks great in this. Turin Bey takes over as the Egyptian priest, and he is controlling Karis and sending Karis to seek revenge on those that desecrated Ananka's tomb. We get 10 minutes of rehash of Mummy's Hand. You only got like a 63-minute movie here, and the first 10 minutes of it is a rehash of Mummy's Hand. We obviously at the end of the day, I guess we just don't have enough of a story here and we had to pad out 10 minutes of a 60-minute runtime. Very, very strange. Directed by Harold Young, who did a lot of B programmer stuff. He various things. I mean, it's nothing earth shattering. Apparently, he was an editor. Started out as an editor. I think his claim to fame was directing the Scarlet Pumpernickel, Pumpernickel, whatever the fuck it is. Pumpernickel, I haven't seen it, but the Scarlet Pumpernickel. Um, Mummy's Tomb is probably the weakest, in my opinion, of the Mummy franchise. There's just not a lot going on here. I mean, you've got the Mummy terrorizing the town of Mapleton. The Mummy's after Dick Foran, and he does eventually kill off Dick Foran and Wallace Ford. So he does get his revenge from that standpoint. But it's a pretty weak effort, I think. I think the next two films with Cheney are some of the best in the series. But yeah, all in all, I grew up with it. It's a chiller theater thing that I would stay up till midnight on Saturday night just to see this type of stuff. And so I mean, I do have a very soft spot for Mummy films and the Mummy's Tomb, but watching it today's eyes, it's just not a lot going on here. I give it a 6 out of 10. I think Turin Bay is very good in it, actually. All right, let's see what else we got here. We're gonna go to Japan here and talk about Kuroneko. Kuroneko, 1968. Kuroneko, fascinating film. Um, this is directed by Kanito Shindo, who also did On Baba, um, Children of Hiroshima. So he's got a pretty decent pedigree. And this is a beautiful film, uh, gorgeous to look at. Basically, it's a period piece, samurai story, ghost story. The film opens up with a mother and daughter being raped and killed, while their samurai father and son is away, or husband and son, however you want to describe it. But he comes back only to find that his mother and wife have been are gone, been replaced by almost like lookalikes. Apparently, the mother and the daughter made a pact with evil. I assume that's Satan. They talk about it in terms of evil. They talk about it in kind of a metaphorical sense, but basically they've made a pact that they can come back and take revenge on the samurai that did this by drinking their blood. Pretty gruesome and atmospheric. Uh, Very good film. Really enjoyed it. This is a Criterion release. Highly recommend this one. 8 out of 10. Definitely like this one. This has got an hour-long interview with the director, which I haven't listened to yet, but I definitely will at some point. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Forgot what I watched. Oh, yeah. Hello, Mary Lou. Prom Night 2. I watched the Shudder. I watched the Joe Bob Briggs Last Drive-In Shudder coverage of this, directed by Bruce Pittman. And this to me is better than the original Prom Night. Really, really, it's a great mashup of concepts from Exorcist, Carrie, Nightmare on Elm Street. Good stuff. Basically, you've got Mary Lou, who's a promiscuous high schooler. She comes to the prom with a date and then makes out with someone else. And in the middle of all this, you've got a stink bomb prank that goes wrong, and she gets caught on fire and dies. And then she comes back. This time, like, supposedly comes back. There's a time difference issue here, but it's 1957 and she's 30 years later. We won't get into that. She comes back and to get revenge, and now Billy, her original prom date, is played by Michael Ironside. This was a Canadian production in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And Michael Ironside's great in this. The guy she was making out with at the prom in 57 is now a priest. So very interesting stuff. You've got some interesting kills going here. Very supernatural in its kill. It's a slasher film, but it's very supernatural in how it plays out. Good stuff. Great stuff. Surprising nudity scene in the girls locker room scene. It's like full nudity. The girl that plays the possessed Mary Lou. I give this one a 7.5 out of 10. I thought this was very, very good. Great stuff. And Joe Bob Briggs' coverage of it was excellent. And then finally, how could you not do an October without talking about Dracula 1931, Bela Lugosi, directed by Todd Browning. I mean, it's a masterpiece. You know, bottom line is Bela Lugosi is Dracula. I love Christopher Lee, and at the end of the day, personally, for me, the Christopher Lee films are I like them better, but I don't consider them necessarily better than Bela and his portrayal. It's just different. I think this is a masterpiece. I give it an 8 out of 10. And in Bela, truly is he memorialized himself as Dracula in his portrayal of this role. But of course, now he did this before he even made this movie. He had already done on stage very successful stage work as Dracula. So he already had a pedigree with regard to playing Dracula. Universal really didn't want Bela. They wanted Lon Chaney Sr. to play it. And then I think when he died of throat cancer, they talked about also getting Conrad Veidt, who I'm going to talk about in another film this month, Conrad Veidt, to come over and do the film. But for whatever reason, he chose not to do it. So, but thankfully, we got the guy that needed to be Dracula, and he was fantastic in it. Dwight Frye as Renfield was fantastic. Edward Van Sloan as Van Helsing is excellent. You got David Manners in this. You know, people complain about it because it's kind of stagey and slow from a pacing perspective. But think about the time it was made, and think about the influence from this. What were every film I think made has some influences that are going into the production of the film. So at that time in 1930, when they made this film, the real influences they had was the stage play, which was highly successful. So it made a lot of sense to basically replicate the stage play. And also, you've got the censors would have never allowed. For example, I know one of my complaints, and probably a lot of people's complaints, is the lack of violence or gore, the lack of a definitive kill scene for the Dracula. You know, Dracula is killed off, and it's done off camera, just with a voiceover. I mean, it is what it is. They weren't allowed to do a legitimate staking scene in 1930, so you had the limitations of the censors, and then you had the influences of a highly successful stage play. So I mean, we got what we got because it's 1930, not 1980. So I still think it's a gorgeous film, extremely gothic. You can obviously see the influences from Todd Browning, Karl Freund, coming from Germany. Beautifully shot film. What more can I say? I give it a 9 out of 10. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for day 12, and I appreciate you watching.